MarSpec is an elegant, distinctive, and appealing finish coat system designed for all types of surfaces, including but not limited to floors, walls, and countertops. And best of all, it is simple to apply. Cut pieces of polystyrene foam can be coated with Marbelite styrocrete for strength and finished with MarSpec for a truly unique effect. Plain styrofoam columns can easily be transformed to have the beauty of real stone columns. MarSpec can easily create a granite effect on walls with a one-shot spray application. Multicolor combinations separated by copper tape will have a sophisticated look. Different bases and coverage rates will allow endless color combinations along with high product yield. Let's start by routing out the cracks using a 4" by 1/4" inch tuck diamond blade mounted on a 4" handheld grinder. These blades cut better and last longer than the standard V-shaped crack chasers and can be purchased at Marbelite for a fraction of the cost. Clean and vacuum all dust from the crack. This will allow our crack filler to bond properly. For larger cracks that encounter heavy expansion and contraction, other preparation methods are required, such as an epoxy injection system or our metal stitching system. This metal stitching system structurally reinforces the cement by using metal stitches placed at alternating angles in the cement, secured in by a high-strength resin filler. When it comes to cracks, remember that too many variables exist, and therefore it's impossible to guarantee that they will not come back, regardless of what products or methods are used in the repair. For small cracks of this size, we recommend our Marbelite Fast Set Crack Filler, which is a semi-rigid filler that allows normal forklift traffic and has the ability to withstand a limited amount of expansion and contraction. Our Marbelite Fast Set Crack Filler comes in a dual cartridge. A static mixing tube is applied with a retainer nut. This is inserted into a dual pack caulking gun for easy application. Discard the first ½ inch of product to make sure it is mixed well. Always fill the routed out cracks and divots to above floor level. While the filler is curing, it's a good time to mask off all adjacent walls. A good method is to pre-tape the wall, then roll the masking paper out on the floor against the wall. Apply masking tape half on the paper and half on the pre-taped wall. Lift the paper and tape it to the wall. This is important to avoid any overspray of the MarSpec. The crack filler should be dry after you are done masking off the walls and is ready to be ground flush with the floor. Once you have finished leveling the surface imperfections, you can continue preparing the surface by using a variable speed grinder fitted with a 7" diamond cup grinding wheel. On larger, well-ventilated jobs, Hydrochloric acid can be used to prepare the surface, but must be thoroughly washed, cleaned, and dried before proceeding. Finalize the surface preparation by using crushed glass particles and an orbital floor sander fitted with a stripping pad and 60 grit sandpaper discs. The glass is ground into the surface, giving the low spots a profile that the diamond wheel missed. Blow or vacuum all the dust off the surface. It is very important to have a clean, porous surface for the epoxy to stick to in our next step. A simple absorption test will allow you to determine whether the surface is ready to be coated. Place a drop of water on the surface. If the water absorbs within 3 minutes, you have properly prepared the surface. If not, further preparation may be necessary. Here's a quick review of some very important steps. Route all cracks in the concrete from 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch in depth. Steel brush and vacuum the routed out cracks as well as all divots and other surface imperfections. Fill the dust-free cracks and holes to slightly above surface level. Allow the crack filler to dry, then grind down to surface level. These 4 simple steps will ensure a smooth finish in the end. This surface is well prepared, so we're ready to move on. Mix a small amount of Marbelite water-based epoxy for cutting in. The mix ratio is 4 parts resin to 1 part hardener. Now is the proper time to add additional color to achieve multiple color effects. We have tinted our epoxy to almond sand using the Marbelite tint kit. Once you have cut in, mix the rest of the epoxy so that it can be rolled out uniformly. A generous dip and roll followed by a cross roll will properly distribute the epoxy coating. If your roller runs dry, you will experience a streaky, blotchy effect, so make sure to keep it wet with epoxy at all times. If you notice the surface absorbing the epoxy at different rates, a second coat is necessary. If the surface is extremely rough, a coating of Marbelite Filcrete should be applied before the epoxy. Carefully grind all trowel marks in the Filcrete flat, vacuum all debris, and continue with the epoxy coating. The epoxy will cure in as little as 2 hours and as long as overnight, depending on drying conditions. The surface is now ready for the magic of MarSpec. When mixing MarSpec, you may add up to 16 ounces of water per 1 gallon of MarSpec to define the speckle better. Do not exceed 16 ounces of water or the bond will be weakened. Always stir MarSpec with a paint stirrer very gently and never shake it or the colors will blend together. A 1 quart capacity paint sprayer used with a Titan high volume low pressure unit can easily finish jobs of this size. To cover a 400 square foot 2-car garage at 100% coverage, approximately 8 quarts would be needed. For larger jobs, Marbelite stocks the Titan TS50P with pressure pot, feed hose, and cart assembly. The unit comes with a variety of tips for spraying many types of paints and sealers. To spray MarSpec, you should use the largest tip supplied with this unit. The spray process goes by effortlessly with this HVLP unit. To increase the distance of the product, you may use a lower coverage rate. At a 50% coverage rate, you will double the amount of square feet you can get from a gallon of MarSpec and produce a unique color effect at the same time. The possibilities are endless, but always remember to keep your coat of MarSpec uniform. MarSpec usually dries in 1 hour under normal drying conditions, but you should not seal it unless you're sure it's dry, or else you'll trap the uncured MarSpec under the sealer. So we recommend waiting 4 hours. In some extreme cases, you may have to let it cure overnight. The most important thing to remember is not to spray MarSpec if the conditions don't allow water to evaporate from the surface. Before you seal it, you should check the hardness by lightly scratching an inconspicuous spot with your thumbnail or a screwdriver. This is a simple test to determine if the MarSpec is dry and ready for sealing. Our surface is ready to seal with Marbelite Diamond Clear Epoxy. 1 kit is the exact required ratio. And because our floor was prepared with the dry grinding method, and both the base epoxy and the MarSpec were applied during normal drying conditions, this allowed everything to absorb and cure well. Mix the Diamond Clear Epoxy at a ratio of 100% resin to 63% hardener with a paint mixer. Make sure to stir gently to keep air bubbles out of the mix. First, cut in at the walls and then start the rolling process. Do not let the epoxy sit mixed in the bucket for longer than 30 minutes or it will start to harden. If necessary, pour out all the epoxy across a section of the floor and roll it from there. If only 1 coat of Marbelite Diamond Clear Epoxy will be used, you should first sand the MarSpec with 100 grit sandpaper attached to a pole sander. Always vacuum the surface well after you sand it and before you seal it. If 2 coats of Diamond Clear Epoxy will be used for the heavier traffic areas, such as commercial or industrial applications, you must sand the first coat of epoxy after curing in approximately 8 hours with a 17-inch Oric floor sander available at Marbelite. Use 60 to 100 grit sandpaper discs. Again, you must vacuum well before you apply the second and final coat of Diamond Clear Epoxy. The quality of the final seal is determined by many conditions. For example, drips of sweat, dust in the air, or simply placing your hand on the surface before you seal it will cause small surface imperfections. The MarSpec surface is fully cured in 72 hours under normal drying conditions and provides not only an attractive surface, but one that can last for years when properly maintained. Normal forklift traffic will not damage MarSpec, but dragging pallets and burning tires will. Marbelite hopes this video was helpful and will aid you in understanding the installation of beautiful MarSpec. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us toll-free at 1-800-348-3993.